at the arms. Just as we think about this, we saw a video of a alleged Kenyan that was being whipped from the Arab world. We're yet to verify which country. And let's not be mistaken, I'm not talking about the video of the comedy, stand-up comedy that they were acting about how a Kenyan is buried live in the Arab world. That was incitement and causes hate among the two nations, or the two races, that the Arab world and the African race. But this time around, we're talking about the harsh labor that has been subjected, but also there are harrowing stories that we've been receiving concerning how labor, especially domestic workers, are treated in this Arab world. So it's a great concern that these people are returned, because their overstay will cause them again problems. The same thing that is happening to many Ugandans out there. They are in these countries and they don't have jobs, but they keep hoping that they will get jobs. Some of the companies which they paid about 9 million shillings to 11 million shillings to take them to, let's say, in the United Arab Emirates, they have abandoned them. And when they abandon them, some of them end up on the streets. If they are girls, they end up engaging in the illegal prostitution. Some of them, if they're boys, definitely find a way of surviving and sleeping on the streets. Something that our not even in the parliament was brought to the attention of parliament in the most recent past. Therefore, the Kenyan concerns of the cabinet secretary for Alfred Matua is something that the Kenyan government has pledged to address, while the Kenyans have also expressed concern that the government should move it fast and return their relatives. It is common for some people to be in UAE and they ask their Ugandan counterparts here to help them with money, either to get an extension of the permit, or even to ask for food because they have not gotten what to do in some of the Emirates. And this can be, someone can be either in Abu Dhabi, or it can be in Dubai, and they are trying to struggle to make a living, but they can't find it. About the 7 Emirates that we know of. So support them, and also a caution to the companies that take them and later on abandon them. The debate, moving away from Kenya and the issues of labor export, let's look at the debate on coffee. The debate on coffee continues to attract different segments. It continues to attract both anger and some level of compromise. Now, the president, before I go to the president, yesterday the MPs that come from NUP had to have a brief to the party principal on the proceedings of parliament. Remember, some of the MPs that led the onslaught on the fight against the rationalization of UCDA were MPs from the largest opposition, that National Internet Platform, led by the leader of opposition, that is Joel Senyonyi. They debated passionately about the stakeholding in this whole coffee debate, reasoning how many people are depending on it and the impact of this. Although later on the president, remember, they had also some of these MPs under the committee met the president to convince him not to rationalize the UCDA, the agency. They had agreed at that point, some of these MPs that went under the auspices of the committee that is looking at the rationalization, that they phase the rationalization is phased into 3 years, that they take 3 years as they wind up what is happening with the activities of it. But however, when it came to the committee, the results that the recommendation were produced were quite different. The uproar that was staged in parliament only reflects the sentiments of Ugandans that depend highly on coffee. So that was the brief that the MPs, especially from NUP, that were giving the leader of NUP. What is the plan thereafter is something that we're waiting to see. But meanwhile, also Kyagulanyi has urged, rather Mpuga, former leader of opposition, has urged government to withdraw the rationalization bill because he reasons that it is very counterproductive. We are going to look at briefly what Mpuga says, and as return from Mpuga's brief, we will also look at what the president as said. The president initially has said that he needs to speak to these MPs if they are losing the battles. Now, if you remember the clip that has divided this country, you hear the chief whip asking whether they have the numbers in parliament to ensure that the rationalization bill is passed. This became a point of controversy, and the president, as a person that is watching, wrote a very lengthy letter on a former Twitter, that platform called X, to explain the circumstances under which he thinks the UCDA should be rationalized, crediting and chest thumping, giving flowers to Operation Wealth Creation for the impact. Perhaps the letter is not enough. The president has summoned the National Caucus to look at this. Let's look at this story of Mpuga and find out why Mpuga is urging government to withdraw the bill.
Only quotes two agencies that were consulted. One, the Ministry of Agriculture, MAIF, the owners of the bill, and then two, UCDA, the users of the bill. So meaning that for such a very critical sector and commodity, there wasn't adequate public consultation. Therefore, it was a half-hearted job done. Now that it has generated enough controversy, I think the powers that be need to understand that legislation is done on behalf of the people, in the name of the people. And if the people that represent the public are saying no, and they represent the voices of the people, I want to advise, as a senior legislator, that our rules are very clear. At any one time, a bill can be withdrawn by the mover. I want to strongly advise that this bill can be withdrawn and the rains will continue coming down the skies. Namely, to facilitate and enable adequate stakeholder consultation, such that the movers, the proponents, do not appear as though they have somebody in mind to defeat. One of the dangers we encounter as legislators is that when we are considering particular legislation.
Well, very big conversation. The rationalization of the UCD has drawn almost everyone, even the people that we never saw to speak in parliament, and their maiden speech was when they are swearing in, have come to the floor of parliament, because many of the people out there, the people that farmers, it touches the very core. And let's give perspective here. In the speaker, Anita Mong, one time when he was explaining why some of these agents was not as rationalized, she explained that they were catering from the clusters in the regions. She talks about the dairy authority being from the west. She also spoke about the cotton and also spoke about the coffee that is largely grown by the central people and the eastern people. This is suffice to say that coffee has now spread to even areas of Kasese. And I'm speaking about Rwenzururu region, is that people are, the farmers there, while they are growing cocoa, they are also putting coffee plants, coffee, what did I call it? Coffee are also growing coffee. Now, the change of heart could have been explained by the president in his letter, but many people think that it is not convincing enough, and some of these associations should be given the light of day. The president is still insistent that even these other corporations, that he had to bring in other people to deal with the dairy, while the ministry had delayed. He believes that the ministries have developed capacity to ensure that some of these agencies are returned to. Let's look at now, moving on, having wait for the president. The president summons the caucus. Yes, last night we spoke to the caucus spokesperson, and that is Honorable Brandon Chin, to explain why the president has picked on them and asked them to meet tomorrow 30th to see how to handle this whole debate. Someone came through, and the departure has been put on November. According to the letter, this is to notify and invite you for the caucus meeting scheduled to take place on Friday 1st at 9 p.m. at Chisozi Country Farm. All members are required to undertake a mandatory test at the Parliament Conference Hall. That is on Wednesday, which is tomorrow, and departure Friday will be at 6 a.m. Can they put on an appropriate footwear, as there will be some farm visits? That is according to the Chief Whip, Dennis Obwa. Quite interesting. Yes, quite interesting, because the president was also explaining in his letter the model, the farmers. One of the lady he quotes in his farm, if we can get back that letter from the president, he quotes and says in his own area in Chisos, it was one of his farm workers that spread the gospel according to spread the gospel, and people picked on farming. He questioned, if UCDA was so important in this fight, how come 63% of Ugandans were outside the money economy? How come? And he says that it's only that after the coming of Operation Wealth Creation that many Ugandans have been captured in the money economy. The president, in that letter, if you remember very well yesterday, let's go up where the gist of this conversation is. Indeed, in 36th of the, he says, indeed, by 2013, only 68 of the Ugandan homesteads were still outside the money economy, and that was a great concern. And said, when I established UCDA in 1991. Many years later, 68% of Ugandans were still outside the money economy, something that the president was very much concerned with. Well, will the people that attend the caucus tell the president about the stakeholders and what they think about it? Yes, the president says people complained about OWC, wrong inputs, bringing things that are not practical, things that are get rotten, inputs that are get rotten. The president in this letter says even that was said of UCDA and so others. But the president, that you cannot use a hammer to kill a mosquito. If that was the case, then the inefficiencies you would cater then, because you don't take away the bigger problem. Not every problem needs a hammer. We hope that the caucus people will represent their representative will reflect the aspirations of Ugandans, because the Ugandans' aspirations were well captured in the document that the committee went about interviewing. Well, moving on, the issue of waste management is a great debate across Africa, but we've had model countries that have handled waste management so well. We're speaking in terms of South Africa, we're speaking about Nigeria and Ghana. Many of the solutions that are being provided currently in the African continent emanate from a company that was studied in Ghana. We had Victoria Bagaya go to Accra to find out whether this company, the Osborne company that is trying to persuade government to give it its contract to handle the garbage in Uganda after the catastrophe that befell this country on Chitezi. Do they have the capacity? Can we look at this story where Victoria Bagaya visited some of these and did what we call due diligence? Now, Victoria uses our money, not taxpayers' money. People go and don't do these things. Many MPs have been told to go do diligence, and they end up in hotels and doing a party time. This time around, Victoria decided to leave this country to find out whether this company really has capacity. We've had in the past companies that posture to have capacity to do so many things for this country, only to turn out that they are briefcase companies and they never exist. Let's look at this story.
As part of the efforts to assess their capacity, I embarked on a journey to Ghana, where I had the opportunity to observe Zoom Lion Ghana Limited's operations firsthand. What I witnessed was a system far more advanced than what we have in Uganda, a system that treats waste not as a burden, but as a valuable resource. In fact, Zoom Lion's philosophy is that garbage is not waste, but a material in transit or a source of cash. From their transfer stations to their door-to-door waste collection services, Zoomlion has crafted a seamless waste management ecosystem. I toured their recycling plants where both plastic and organic waste are processed and visited their landfill sites, which are meticulously managed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm standing 45 meters above sea level in the capital Accra in the West African country